Hello everyone and welcome to the Hockey Hub. So today we're going to be doing another player rankings video, and we are going to be looking at the top 10 wingers in the NHL in my opinion. Now obviously we all have different opinions. Your list will be completely different than mine, so feel free to leave yours in the comments below. But as far as my list, we're going to start off with number 10. So number 10, I have Mark Stone. Now Mark Stone is one of the best, if not the best, two-way wingers in the league. His analytical numbers are fantastic, and I know the analytics community is very big on him. I think he's great, obviously, but I do think he gets overrated sometimes because of those analytical numbers. He isn't the most offensive winger. Like, he's still good offensively, obviously. If he wasn't, he wouldn't be on this list. He still puts up 30 goals, 70 points, around that mark. But probably as far as offense goes, that's why he's lowest on this list, because that's not really the strongest part of his game. He's so good in his own zone. He's got such a good stick, and really he's worked on his skating, which is why he was such a late round draft pick. His skating is really good now. His overall game is really good, and he would be my pick for captain of the Vegas Golden Knights. He's a great player, but there is 9 wingers in the league I feel that are better than him, and going with number 9, I have Kyle Connor. Now, this might be a divisive take, having Kyle Connor ahead of Mark Stone, because obviously a lot of people are not a fan of Kyle Connor because they think his defensive game is terrible due to analytics. I watch a lot of Winnipeg games, and I don't personally think Connor is a piss-poor defensive player, but as far as his offense goes, you can't go wrong with that offense. He was on a 40-goal pace this year. He was over point per game, and he's been very consistent for the first 3 years of his career. In my opinion, he is the better player than Patrik Laine, and one of Winnipeg's best for sure. Him and Scheifele have undeniable chemistry, and they make a great 1-2 punch as a winger and center. I just think Kyle Connor's offense is too much to argue with. He's so young, and he keeps getting better. He's got such good hands, he's so fast, he's got such a good shot, good playmaking ability. There's some people that argue he's just a one-dimensional player, but even just looking at that one dimension, it's good enough to have him at number 9 on my list. But moving on to number 8, I have Mitch Marner. Now, Mitch Marner is from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this past season he got that big contract, and some people don't think he lived up to it, but he was over point per game, I believe, and I think he took way too much criticism just because of that contract. Do I think he's worth that much? Probably not, but it doesn't change the fact that he is still one of the best playmakers in the league and one of the best wingers in the league. I'd argue he's been Toronto's MVP since arriving there. I know Matthews just had the big year, and I do think Matthews is the better player, but Marner has been the healthier player, and I believe he is actually, in the past 4 years, Marner has led the team in overall scoring. Marner makes any center he plays with better. We saw that in Tavares' first year in Toronto. Tavares was approaching 50 goals. I believe he had 48 or 49. And then when Marner goes over to Matthews' wing, boom, Matthews is a massive goal scorer. He was in the hunt for the Rocket Richard, and Matthews looked like an overall better player. Marner is a perfect playmaking winger, and he'll make almost any center he plays with better. He has a solid two-way game as well, which I feel gets underrated. He is a penalty killer in Toronto, and we did see some of his late-game heroics against Boston. At number 7, I have Jonathan Huberdeau from the Florida Panthers. Now, in the past couple of years, Huberdeau has really broken out as a true star, and in my opinion is now one of the most underrated players in the league, not his teammate Alexander Barkov. I don't think Barkov is underrated anymore. When everybody says you're underrated, you're probably not underrated anymore. But Huberdeau, on the other hand, does not get talked about enough. He had a 90-point season and was over a point per game this year. He's one of the best pure offensive wingers in the league. He can score goals, but his thing is typically playmaking. He is a pass-first player, and his overall offensive impact on the game is really good. For a 3rd overall pick, he's definitely lived up to that status, and while it may have taken him a while to get there, he's definitely at that level now. He's totally worth that pick, and is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best wingers in the entire NHL. At number 6, I have the infamous Brad Marchand. Now, Brad Marchand has really made a name for himself in the NHL. A lot of fans know him as the Rat, and he is a pest. He isn't the most likable player for non-Boston fans. He does get under the opponent's skin, but there's no denying he's damn good at what he does. He had a 100-point season a couple of years ago. He is one of the best offensive wingers in the league. He can do it all. He's a good two-way player. He can score goals, pass, you name it, Marchand can do it. He even plays on the penalty kill, and he is part of that perfection line in Boston. Marchand, his overall impact on the game is second to none. He's such an effective winger, such an effective player, and is one of the most clutch players in the NHL. He's almost guaranteed for an overtime goal when you need it, and there's really no weakness in Marchand's game, aside from maybe some of the stupid penalties he takes, but he also draws a lot of penalties too. Marchand is effective in many ways, and in a lot of ways the other players on this list aren't. So Marchand is a very unique player in that he's a pest, he can be dirty, he is a rat, but he's one of the best offensive wingers in the league, and even into his mid-30s can continue to do so. But at number 5, I have his teammate, David Pastrnak. Now, Pastrnak just had a big breakout season, winning the Rocket Richard, tied with Alex Ovechkin, but Pastrnak, I think, is the best player on Boston at this point. He is the best player on that perfection line. His offense is incredible. All of his offensive instincts are fantastic, especially his shot. He has one of the best pure shots in the National Hockey League. And when Ovechkin is done, it's guys like Pastrnak and Matthews that are going to take over as these next great goal scorers, same as Ovechkin and Stamkos from years and soon decades past. Pastrnak is definitely a sniper, and he's one of the best in the league, and in my opinion probably has even more Rocket Richards left in him. He's so young and he's already this good, and luckily for Boston, he's at a pretty team-friendly deal too. But going on to number 4, I have recent Hart Trophy nominee Artemi Panarin. Now, Panarin in his first season with the New York Rangers just had an outstanding year. His points per game was one of the best in the entire NHL and really dragged New York into that possible playoff conversation. New York probably would have been a really bad team if not for him. I get they got solid goaltending and with their young guys, Mika Zibanejad was really good, and they had a really good rookie in Adam Fox, but Artemi Panarin was really the driving force for the New York Rangers and will likely continue to be for years until Alexis Lafreniere reaches that potential, if he does reach that potential. But Panarin, at least this past season, looked like he was worth that massive contract he signed. He was great in Columbus. He was a big part of the reason they were finally able to go on a little playoff run there, and is one of the most consistent wingers in the NHL. It's going to be interesting to see if he can follow up his amazing past season with another one. I think he can. I do think he is one of the most offensively talented wingers in the league. The defensive side of the game isn't exactly a standout for him, but when you're that good offensively, it's okay to have you that high up on this list, because his overall offensive game is just fantastic. But going on to number 3, I have Patrick Kane. Now, Patrick Kane, for a long time, has been one of the best wingers in the league. And you can argue he was one of the best wingers, one of the best players of the past decade, really. I mean, he does lead the 2010s in overall points. He's got 3 Stanley Cups. Everybody knows the accolades, Hart Trophy, all that. And when he retires, I think will probably go down as the greatest American player to ever play. He's done so many things that Americans before haven't done, like the Hart Trophy, like the Conn Smythe, I believe. I don't know if maybe Brian Leetch had won that before. But Patrick Kane, I know his analytical numbers aren't great. A lot of people have a problem with him because of his defensive game, but Patrick Kane's role for the Chicago Blackhawks is not to be a good two-way winger. It is to generate offense. It is to score goals. It is to set up big goals scored by his teammates like Alex DeBrincat and Jonathan Toews. Kane is still one of the best pure offensive wingers in the league, and I think can continue to do so for a while. He plays such a smart game. He's such a cerebral player, and he, in my opinion, still has the best hands in the NHL. Just watch him in shootouts. You can tell he's fantastic. But moving on to number 2, I have the best pure goal scorer in the NHL, and maybe of all time, Alex Ovechkin. Now, Ovechkin just won himself another Rocket Richard trophy. It feels like every year you can pencil him in for 50 goals and to win the Rocket Richard. He's one of the most consistent goal scorers of all time and could potentially threaten to break Gretzky's record. I don't know if he'll do it with all this talk about him maybe going back to Russia, but there's a chance. Ovechkin, if he plays long enough, can definitely break the record, and it would be pretty cool to see since for a long time everybody thought that record would be untouchable. But Ovechkin has scored at such a consistent rate throughout his career that I think it is possible for him to break that record. He still is performing at such a high level. I know his defensive game isn't the strongest, but just like I said for Patrick Kane, he is not being put there to be a good two-way player. He is out there to score goals, but he's also a good hitter too. I know as a Montreal fan, he absolutely crunched Jonathan Drouin and took him out for a while. Ovechkin he's always been a big hitter. He throws his body around, and he's just a very big man. He's a sniper, but he's also a power forward, and he's one of the most unique players the NHL has ever seen. He's a great player. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and even at age 34, 35, he's still this good. He's still the best pure goal scorer in the league, and probably still has another Rocket Richard left in him. But moving on to number 1, I have recent Stanley Cup champion, Nikita Kucherov. Now, Nikita Kucherov, for me, is the best winger in the league, and I don't really think it's that close. 2 seasons ago, he won all the awards. The Ted Lindsay, the Hart, the Art Ross. He had one of the best offensive seasons by a player we've seen since Jaromir Jagr. And then in the playoffs that past year against Columbus, it fell apart. Everything just went down for him. And there was a lot of questions about, well, yeah, he's great, but how great? He can't perform in the playoffs. But we just saw in Tampa Bay's Stanley Cup final run, he can perform in the playoffs. He was above point per game and was one of their best players, and in my opinion, their best forward behind Braden Point in that little playoff run. But Kucherov, even in what some people would call a bit of a down year, he was still on pace for 100 points. Kucherov is the best purely offensive player in the league. He can do it all. He's got a lethal shot. He's a pinpoint passer. His hands are second only to Patrick Kane. Kucherov's overall game is fantastic. He does actually play with a little bit of an edge sometimes too, which might surprise people that don't constantly watch Tampa Bay. But he can play with a bit of an edge, and his defensive game isn't that bad either. He's solid enough for a star player, and Kucherov is another player that I think is a first ballot Hall of Famer and is one of the best Russians of all time and could go down as one of the best wingers of all time. And in my opinion, certainly right now is the best winger in the game. But that does it for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching to the end. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys later. Bye for now.